Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Mr. Hudson, how are you, sir? Showboating seems to be the topic of the week, and I always like to get Hudson's view on it. So, first of all, let's talk about Anthony, not your son Anthony. We're going to be doing more of that in Alan Hudson's World Cup Diaries as we enter November and the World Cup starts. But Anthony, the fella, the Brazilian boy that plays for United, that done probably a double pivot is an appropriate term, and then passed the ball, but it went out of play. What's your take on it?
I'd like to see players prove themselves before they can do all that. That don't really stand up with me. When you mention, as soon as you mention Brazilian, I think of real Brazilian players, you know, who showboated like Ronaldinho or something like that, you know, who could really do it and do it at the right times. Do it dead ball kicks and cold balls in, and I mean you don't have to pivot to do that, but I've always had a thing about showboating. I've always had a theory about it. I don't like players that do it when things are going well, and when they're up against it, they're not seen. You know, they go missing. What we had this conversation yesterday, and I know you like it, and I know fans like it. There's nothing better to see somebody do a trick and do this and that. You know, I fall out with Chelsea fans over saying, "Oh, did you see him do this and do that?" Well, that catching the ball on the back of your neck and doing tricks and all that, it don't stand by me. You know, I'm not one of those people. The reason I was a good player was because I kept things simple. But as a kid, I could do all the tricks. I could showboat. I look at showboating like playing at Stoke City with Jimmy Greenough and knocking balls into him and then running and getting the return, and then he knowing where he is and him knowing where I am. I call that showboating. And I gave you an instance yesterday. I remember the greatest bit of showboating that went wrong. It was a game that Stoke fans still remind me of when I go up there. Leeds United, the top Leeds United team, they were coming to the end of their tether, but they'd gone 29 games without defeat, so they couldn't have been that bad, and they were going for the big one to break the record at the Victoria Ground, and you know, there's no tougher place to come to us. And it was only about my fifth or sixth game for Stoke at that time.
Your first goal, wasn't it?
It was my first goal, which obviously hadn't come. I wouldn't say at the right time. It was they hit us with two quick goals. You know, away from home, and that led to them. I didn't call it showboating at the time. I called it swaggering and swanning, and they scored a third goal. Joe Jordan scored a header from 6 yards out, and it was well offside, and thankfully there was no today's VAR and all this rubbish. You know, otherwise it might have been given. And if they'd have gone 3-0 up, well, they would have really had us by the old Niagaras, you know. And it was a great moment which changed the game. But they were showboating. They were 2-0 up, and Bremner and Giles were, you know, swaggering around in midfield and flicking it here, flicking it there. And had they been at Ellen Road, it would have been an Olay, you know.
Yeah.
It would have been, they would have really rubbed their noses in it. And I remember looking over at John Mahoney and nodding, and he nodded back to me, and then he started on Johnny Giles and me on Bremner, and Mickey Paget, my friend, scored from a free kick. I got the second, I think, to equalise, and we didn't want half time to come. And it was the first time in a dressing room I'd ever been in a dressing room ever in my entire life when none of the players sat down. And I went out and I changed my shirt, went out into the shower area, did what I usually do, freshen up, and all I could hear in the other rooms was aluminium studs on the dressing room floor, and it told me that showboating don't work. It was quite fantastic. We went out, we won 3-2. Dennis Smith always boasts that he got letters from all around the world for scoring the winner. It was one of the best. It was possibly the best game I've ever played in for atmosphere and the crowd, and all the fans unbelievably tell me now that they clean the betting shops out. But that was a great example of showboating. I'm all for what we spoke about. When Alan Ball sits on the ball, Tony Curry sits on the ball, and that's great with me, because them kind of players can showboat.
Yes.
But when they get behind, they can still change games.
Yeah.
They don't go missing. But these people that showboat, when there was one player played for Arsenal, I can see his face. Can't you'll put a name to it. And he moved to Manchester City as a front man. He's only a small fella. He used to showboat, but only when they were winning.
Yeah.
And when they were losing, he was a disaster. And I hate that. I can see his face. I can see his entire body. I can actually see his name, but can't spell it. But
Just say it.
But them type of players really annoy me. I think we spoke about it. I wrote something last week about players looking good in the warm up.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I as a kid, I used to study players in a warm up and think, bloody hell, well, not study them, but look at them and think, cool, he looks a good player, and the way he moves and the way he passes, flicks it up, keeps it up, does this, does that, and then the whistle goes and you don't see them.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. They're better players in the warm up than when the whistle blows. And I was the type of player that I'd go on the field and just do my warm up and didn't want to be seen in the warm-up. I'd do my warm-up before I got on the field and then just get into the game. I don't believe in all that, I think it's because they get in front of the crowd more, and they think they got to show them a few flashy little tricks,
Mm.
But that ain't the name of the game, because the name of the game is, as we see again yesterday with Manchester City, they had it tough at Leicester. They were a bit fortunate at times. One effort, the Leicester lad hit the bar with a 35.
Great shot, yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
God! That
fingertips.
if ever a goal, if ever it deserves a goal, Elements, whatever his name is, he's he can look a good Tillemans.
Yeah.
He can look a good player at times, especially when he plays for Belgium.
Yeah.
But that would have been some goal. It's Man City can swagger, but they also. I see a player last night. I see one game. Player come off, and he was a terrific player, and the sweat pouring off him was fantastic. I thought, they're not just great. Oh, it was Kevin De Bruyne.
Mm.
It was Kevin De Bruyne, and I've never seen a player with so much talent work so hard.
He's always ruddy faced. Kenny Dalglish was similar. always ruddy faced for some reason. Their cheeks glow red, don't they? And De Bruyne, he does perspire an awful lot. He'd be a great advert for an antiperspirant deodorant spray, wouldn't he, Kevin De
Or a
Bruyne?
bar of soap. Uh,
Well,
but
back
yeah,
in the day,
yeah.
you did that, Al, famously, didn't you?
Well,
With the bar
I
of
was.
soap at Arsenal. Arsenal going to clean up with Hudson.
But when I was fit, mate, I mean, before I got my ankle, even when on the heavy grounds,
Yeah,
I remember Stevie Perriman said to me last week. He said, "I remember saying it to you at Victoria Ground one day on a heavy pitch." He said, "Al, we should slow down a bit." He said, "Whatever you're taking, can you give me some?" Which made me laugh, and because me and Stevie are great mates, and we can say that to each other. You know, you can say each other, when you're mates and you play against each other in big matches, and which we did many times. You find out who's who in these matches, and I know that I'm not really going off track with this
no, of
showboating,
course we're not,
but
because I'm going to bring it to something that I think is very relevant from what you've just spoken about shortly.
yeah, it's I'm all probably the greatest showboat of them all was Frank
Yeah,
Worthington, maybe.
absolutely. Yeah,
Frank was because I remember, and I told you, I mean, it's no secret that he thought he was Elvis,
yeah,
and I was very, very close to pulling a deal off with Stan Baldwin, a good friend of mine, and we were going to do a radio show of jokes and uh, phone calls to people that we knew in our trade. And I made a few names, wrote a few names out. He wrote a few names, and then Stan would speak to my friends, and I'd speak to his, and one was Frank, and I said Frank Worthington, and we did a demo of it, and Frank was on it, and I said to Frank, tell me, Frank, did you ever take Elvis on the pitch with you? And he said, Alan, he said, I was Elvis on the pitch.
yeah.
And that just about summed him up, and he was, and he played the game like he was. He went out there to be the best player. I loved him dearly as a person. I think, as everybody that really met him probably did. He was so genuine. He never cheated. When we haven't got the ball, he wouldn't cheat. He still was a winner. Uh, but he took Elvis on the field with him, and I think that is why people speak about him as the ultimate maverick, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think the Elvis story is a fantastic one. I mean, I couldn't dream of doing anything like that, but just was in Frank's makeup as a kid. He really loved this man so much, and he wanted to be him, and he was him, and he even dressed like him, and not with the silly clothes. Uh, but I've been out with him I've at one Sunday function. I asked him, I said, please we've got a good crowd here today. It was a Sunday afternoon for Hungerford, I think it was, raising money for Hungerford. Um, and I said, Frank, he's a bit quiet. I said, I think you better go up on stage and do a little turn. Just do one song. And his face, he was like a little kid in a candy shop. He he just got up on the stage, switched the mic on, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, and, and kids, this is Elvis Presley, and he done Are You Lonesome Tonight, but he didn't sing it, he spoke it.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, this fella he was Elvis Presley, and bless him, and he took Elvis to his grave with him, and that's showboating. And when Frank showboated, he could showboat. He could flick it up, and he could. I mean, but not only could he showboat, the goal against Bolton, the goal for Bolton against Ipswich was showboating and putting the finishing touches on it, wasn't it?
I think what we're pretty much nailing is there's nothing wrong with showboating, because we remember players that were showmen that did it fantastically well 40, 50 years ago, and we still remember. So the showboating, yeah, good, but there has to be some either killer pass or a killer goal. It has to have a purpose. Ronaldinho, when he showboated against Chelsea at the Bridge, put it in the onion bag, bang,
Yeah,
tick.
yeah.
And also against friends and with friends, to add a little bit of comedy, lightheartedness, entertainment. I go back to Tony Curry and Rodney Marsh by the corner flag at Loftus Road, trying to nutmeg each other. Tony told me that if he flicked the V's at the Loftus Road crowd after that, he used to blow kisses to the crowd as well. Rodney Marsh and Georgie Best against
Well,
Hereford, I
it
believe,
was,
tackling
yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, I'm not. I think Rodney Marsh is not one of my favourite people,
I
but
know that.
and I think I wouldn't say Rodney's one of those that would do it with when your back was against the wall.
Yeah.
Curry, yes, and I mean I remember Curry. The greatest picture of all time on the football field was him and Alan Birchall all kissing.
Yes.
You know, that was probably the greatest photograph. Now, if that happened today, there would be an inquest, you know, as to how many gays in the game,
Yeah.
you know. But that was two former Sheffield United players, one playing for Sheffield United, one for Leicester this day, you know, and two great pals. Uh, you know, at that moment, that script couldn't be written. It was, you know, that was great. That was fantastic for the crowd. What's all that about? What, you know, what's going on here? You know, but then they get up and they crack on, and then they would try and, as you say, as you just said, nothing wrong with showboating as long as there's an end product.
Yes. Yeah.
But when you get someone like the chap you just mentioned, Anthony, doing that and making a right cock up of it. Oh, I heard the conversation on telly yesterday, funnily enough, about it, and you know, I think that if that would have been me, let's just say we always put ourselves in them shoes, and we always say if that would have been me, I'd have been totally embarrassed, and you know, it's like playing, it's like training with the youth team, and you know, the youth team join in with you, and I always like to help the kids. It's like doing something embarrassing, and it's things that you just don't do. You don't do things like that. You know, what is that all about? What are they trying to do? Is that trying to show? Is that trying to show the crowd that he was justifying his big fee or being in the side or whatever? The only way you justify your name is by what George Best used to do. Be the best player on the field, then walk off, and then go out with Miss World. You know, not play like a total moron and then do it and think, well, I'll go out with Miss World. You know, so what? But yeah, but, you know, good on the football field. You know, George was the best on the field and off the field.
Yeah.
You know, and this is and George could showboat. I mean, he showboated the night Ronnie Harris tried to kick him, and he buckled, and then and Benetti come out. He walked round Benetti. That was showboating, and then he walked it up to the line and put it. He was going to put it through Marvin Hinton's legs, but Marvin shrewdly closed his legs because they didn't want to be the last part of the mesmerising best run. You know, it was, but that was showboating a little bit. But that was unconsciously showboating, George, because he was a showman. He was, you know, because he had the looks, he had everything to go with it.
Absolutely. You referenced earlier about Leeds. Leeds would have equalled Burnley's record of 30 games unbeaten. Believe it was from the 20s when Burnley achieved that. And also, you talked about
So that was
former.
50. That was 50-something years. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you mentioned about two Sheffield United former players. Absolutely spot on. and could have been two former Chelsea players, because Birch was at Chelsea and Tony Curry had trials at Chelsea, but they played him at wing half and didn't deem
No,
him
they
good
didn't.
enough.
No, they played him as centre half.
Oh, was it centre half? It
Yeah,
was at
yeah, yeah.
QPR, then they played him at wing half. But that's how it used to go at them trials. Then centre half.
Well, we're going to end up the old management trick right there. Yeah, no. Tony told me the other week. He said I done a Zoom with Tony, and Tony always said that, you might have been the best player that ever come out of Chelsea, but I was only born down the road in Watford way, North London, and I'd have pushed you to the limit because I wanted to play for Chelsea. I loved Chelsea. He said that game when we done you 2-1, when he scored a fabulous 30-yarder, and he could do it. And yeah, I was thinking it's funny you should mention Curry should have played for Chelsea, because I watched De Bruyne yesterday, and then I thought, how could Chelsea let this lad go?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Again, just getting off the showboating thing, but this player is someone that just produces that bit of magic every game, works harder than anyone else on the field. And I've always said the better the player, the harder they work, in any, and that goes for Frank Sinatra, that goes for anybody. Phil Collins, look what the trouble it's got him in with his hearing and everything else. The best players and the best actors, whatever, they're
At BlueNile.com, you can find endless ways to make your moments sparkle. From classic and timeless jewelry gifts to creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams, all at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. And right now, you can save up to 40% on fine jewelry and 25% on engagement ring settings during the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale, going on now. Go to BlueNile.com to shop the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale and save up to 40%. That's BlueNile.com.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
It isn't just they're blessed with a talent. They have to work. You have to work. Any young player. If I was first as a coach or telling young kids, I used to say, look, go out and enjoy yourself at the time of your life. Don't don't mess your youth up by be a footballer. But when you get in training, you train as hard as you can to reach your goal. And you can't beat training. And De Bruyne is a absolute 1,000% example of this. Any kid that wants to be a footballer, watch Kevin De Bruyne and the way he bursts a gut in everything he does. They were 1-0 up yesterday with about 3 minutes to go. Leicester had him under a bit of pressure, and he got the ball and he ran about 80 yards with the ball, and he was like a sprinter without the ball.
Yeah.
And this for me, the manager must think, oh, what kind of gem have I got here,
Absolutely. And Birch, but great story about Birch in the swimming pool at Chelsea, wasn't there? I remember you telling me a few years ago in my life, my music. Would you just like to recall that before we just touch upon Alan Ball that sat on the ball, Tony Curry that also sat on the ball, and then we'll mention something that Balley did that Curry never. But let's just indulge in Birch for a couple of minutes around that swimming pool at Chelsea. Well, not Chelsea, you were on tour, weren't you?
We were on tour, but Birch was funny enough. I was talking about it the other day. Birch was. I believe that. I truly believe that when Dave Sexton got bad eyes, I see Birch play with Mick Jones at Sheffield United one day, and whoever Dave Sexton went to watch. I believe he bought the wrong one. Mick Jones, I thought, because they both had outrageously blonde hair, And then Birch come to us, and we realised we bought a singer. He was famous for his big thing was he used to sing with Joe Cocker in the nightclub at Sheffield, and that was his claim to fame. But he also had there was this thing about when we was on tour. Brian Mears had a wife who was quite a beautiful woman, and she was when she dived in the swimming pool. It just seemed to be that a few of our players were diving after, alongside, and Birch would be greasing up on the side. He was the one that would had to make the big splash, and. Somewhere out in Jamaica or somewhere like that, and he made a play for this, and it was one of those this could go down as showboating actually, but it could have been one of those if he'd have tripped off the side and hit his head or something, which would have went down even better, because it was that outrageous, but that was the way Birch was, and he used to showboat a lot. Birch, but he just I don't think he could pull it off like once you've seen Worthington do it, you can't get away with it.
Absolutely. Of course you can, sweetie. We've got the grandkids, and we've got a mad kitten as well, Al, that's flying flying around the house. But yeah, Ball, he says to Tony Curry when Tony had sat on the ball, he says, next time we play, I'll show you something a bit special. And Curry told me this. He said what he done, he put his foot on the ball and he untied and he tied his shoelaces, his bootlaces up. And he said, I never got the bastard back for that. But that was Alan Ball. Alfie Collins.
Well, you've got to be a special kind of player to do that.
Absolutely.
An average player can't do that. They might be able to do it, and then they'll probably get the ball and walk away or trip over it or something like that. But Bally was that good. He could, and Curry were, there were two special players who, you could imagine them every time they played each other, they wanted to outdo each other. And that's a great part of football, that if everybody was like that today, it's worth going to the game.
Because they played with a smile on the face, and as I said earlier, it brought the fun to the game. Ozzy, the great man, when he scored in Bobby Charlton's final game at Old Trafford in April 1973, he scored that goal. It kind of ricocheted off him. It went into the back of the net, and Ozzy's just on his knees saluting the goal with a big, massive smile. And Osgood was the showman as well, wasn't he, Al?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I actually wrote something about him yesterday. I always put in whenever I write about Osgood. I'm sure in his own mind that he lived in Windsor, and I've always said that he walked about as if they named Windsor after him. But when they named it Royal Windsor, he thought the Royal was for him. He really was. He was a close showman, and you couldn't take arrogance any further. He was so arrogant, but the arrogance was his confidence. They clash. Arrogance and confidence really do go together, and Osgood had that in. I've never seen a player. I've seen two players. Another at Arsenal with Liam Brady. He wasn't arrogant, Brady, but he was the most confident kid when he left the Arsenal dressing room. You just looked at him and he just knew he was going to be outstanding every game. And it's great to have that faith in your ability, and where some players might lack a bit of confidence in any walk of life. If you've got no confidence, you haven't got anything.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, anything you do, it doesn't matter what it is. It's confidence is everything, and if you lose it, I've known that in my career. Whether it's going over on my ankle, whether it's breaking a leg, or being out injured with other injuries, and then you've got to come back and fight back to fitness. And then first few games, you lose your. Well, after breaking my leg at Stoke, I mean, I came back and I played for a dozen games as if I'd never played the game
Yeah.
before. My fitness regime was wrong. Confidence is everything, and why you got it, it's something you want to bottle up. It's an incredible thing. But if you've got that with that love, with that little edge of arrogance, it's great. And Ozzy had that. Ozzy had that. Frank had that. Stan Bowles had that. Stan Bowles had that in abundance as well. He had that incredible confidence in his left foot, and people could say he was the most arrogant player, but it wasn't. It was just the way he played the game. He had that wonderful, wonderful movement. I always think of the song "Something the Way He Moves," and you look at players like that, and that's why we say the thing about I've always said about coaching, you just can't coach. That's where Don Revie went wrong, with the England team and Ramsey at times. They didn't pick their best players because they couldn't coach him. They couldn't tell him what to do, because these top players like the Brazilians in 70 in Mexico, they didn't need a team talk. Them Pele, Jairzinho, Rivellino, Gerson, they didn't need a team talk. You knew when they walked out of that dressing room they were going to put on the swagger.
Always confident, always bordering arrogance. That makes a good player a great player, and a great player a world-class player. And now we still remember those players for what they gave us 50 plus years ago, when the Mavericks pitch was their stage and the Flair wore the flares. Those were the days, my friend.
Oh yeah, and we thought they'd never end, but you keep waiting for them to come back. It's but it doesn't seem to be that way. I'm pleased to say that on to end the show that it's good to see Jack Grealish show a little bit of his old self yesterday.
Yes.
He's slowly coming round to. Someone said it after the game as well, but he's slowly. He's getting more of the ball at Man City now. They've kind of took him under their wing, and he's looking like the old Jack Grealish of old. I know the opposition weren't the greatest in the world, but they did really make it difficult yesterday for Man City, which you have to do. And long may it continue. Let's hope Grealish can start really. I don't think he'll pick him in the World Cup, but that doesn't matter. As I said to you in the Euros, Paul, Jack should have done what I should have done with Revie. He should retire from international football, knowing that he's not going to get picked, and just hope that Southgate leaves and the next manager will pick him and make him captain, and just say, go on, son, go and play, because signs of yesterday that Grealish might be on his way back.
And I think if you could have a one-to-one with Jack, and I'd love to get a one-to-one with you and Jack, I'm guessing you'd say, Jack, be arrogant, borderline arrogant, do what comes naturally to you, and stuff what the rest think, and say, be yourself, son, go on the pitch, be a winner, produce the magic, and when you come off, we'll both smile together.
Well, absolutely, Paul, because he has to understand it, and although he did lose a bit of confidence, so he has to understand he's got where he's got today for a bit through that arrogance.
Yes.
And he is an arrogant kid, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you produce the goods.
Absolutely.
And he can produce the goods. I mean, he ran it free players yesterday, and he went in and out of them as if they weren't there.
Yeah.
That's a great Jack Grealish, and that's what you as a manager want to see. And me as a player, if I could run it free players and put them out of the game and make that telling pass. It was just so difficult for him yesterday. He couldn't do it yesterday against. It was like Oxford Street yesterday in the Leicester box. It's very, very difficult to play against. We all know that. And of course, they missed the bus up front. They didn't have the tank, did they?
No.
So they had no other way but to keep the ball on the floor. Otherwise, I think yesterday would have been an aerial battle, Pep would have said, there's only one way we can get round this, and that's put it in the air, because apart from the incredible free kick from De Bruyne, you didn't really see where there was going to be a goal come from. These new methods of defending by parking the bus are horrible to play against. They're horrible to watch. They're almost to an extent where you really want to turn the telly over. I would hate to be at a game, because I would go for a change. I might go in the bar and finish the game off in the bar.
Wouldn't be the
As I
first
did
time.
Well, I did it at Sutton last week.
I know you
that.
did. Did you watch any of the game at Sutton last week? I know
Well,
you
no,
certainly
because
ended in the bar.
No, I've been. What's the warm up? And I spoke to the manager beforehand. I hope they forgive me, but I'd done very, very well to turn up there last week, because I had a very heavy day the day before,
Yes,
and on the Friday all the trains were up the creek because Chelsea were at home to Manchester United, and they a late kick-off against Manchester United, which disrupts everything in West London when that happens. The police have no idea. The whoever does this has no idea. It just comes to a standstill. I just don't get it. And then I nearly never got there, but I got there. And once I got there, and I thought, I was with my old sparring partner Martin Knight, and we looked at each other when they said, we're going to take you into the stand at 20-3. And Martin said, well, give us another 10 minutes. And I thought, give us another 2 hours and 10 minutes. And that was it. It was job done.
But if there's one rule change I'd like to see in football, Al, when teams do park,
watch the whole game.
when teams do park the bus, I like the referee to stop it, call in both captains, and say, look, if all you're going to do is defend, call your manager in as well. If all you're going to do is defend, I'm going to award the game to the other team, and we're all going to go home. Because in boxing, if a boxer in the ring just runs away, makes no attempt to lay a glove on, they would just stop the fight. And I think if football wants to go forward and be the entertainment that it should do, something drastic has got to happen to the beautiful game, because some of these teams and managers are making it look quite ugly at times, and it's hardly surprising that former legendary genius players like you would rather stay in the bar and go and watch the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I don't understand is in our day, I remember years ago when Leeds beat Southampton, they transferred my old mate Jimmy Gabriel played, and they give them that. I think they got a record amount of passes before one goal, and I've seen a couple of 9-0s over the last 2 years. Southampton got a couple, I think. You wonder how players can be earning such big money and then get beat 9-0. I can't work that one out.
Neither can I.
It's, you think if you've got to go and try, and I know what it's like to play against a team that's a lot far superior from you. We know that, the old Liverpool team of old, they were going to Anfield was daunting. You could hardly get the ball from it. Everton won the league when they won the league in '70 when Alan Ball was at his best. They were terrific. It was very tough places to go, but I'm afraid, it does show teams up what they really are when they have to play like Leicester did yesterday. If they get relegated, you say, well, yeah, I remember the way they played at Man City. Yeah, maybe they deserve to go down.
Yeah.
Because that's certainly not the. He might be a little bit wary about, will I lose my job if we get beat 6 at Manchester against Manchester City today? But come on, you're multi-millionaires. Be brave.
Yep.
If you're going to get, I know Waddington wouldn't do it. When I played at Stoke with Waddington, he feared nobody. He said, "Go out and play on them. I got every faith in you players, even when the other team were better than us, which they weren't in '75." You know, he said, "Just go out and play. Football will always win,
Yes,
and if you try and go out and play and put everything into it, you got a chance." You know, as they showed yesterday, when that one hit the bar, it could have been 1-1, and Leicester could have. That would have given Leicester a bit of a right and they went, "Oh, we might even go one further here today." You know, what just one strike of, but you ain't gonna hit the bar by sitting in around your own box all day, are you? You know,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. And what a fantastic sentence to finish on. Al, football will always win. Absolutely spot
absolutely,
on,
mate.
mate.
And that's you mentioned Waddington, and that's what you come out with,
Yeah,
the working man's ballad.
absolutely. Football and music go hand in glove. And that's what all our podcasts are about. All our conversations are about football and music and playing football in the right way, putting smiles on people's faces, getting bums on seats these days, because back in our day it was terraces. But most importantly, getting them bums off the seats and being exciting and wanting to go back and watch the next game, because they're looking forward to players and teams replicating some magic moments that we live and die for.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Superb. Till next time out, I will we'll reconvene this time next week, and we'll have another chat about a topic of the week.
Well, we got the World Cup coming up, and there's lots to talk about, mate.
Are you looking forward to the World Cup? Just before we go, is it a bit
Uh,
strange that it's in November? Because the boys are saying that I can't get excited about the World Cup. It's in November because it's usually at the end of the season. It's in the summer. We're going on our summer holidays, jollies, 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 and there's a World Cup festival thrown in as well, but a bit different
well,
then.
I think they don't deserve it to be a good World Cup. I
Yeah,
hope it's a disaster.
yeah,
Uh, I really do, and that's not putting a dampener on anyone that's watching it. It's just it would just prove that if I, if it's no good, if it's a total disaster, it will just show the people, all the bigwigs and all the suits who have taken money to put this competition on in November, that November and December is a lead up to Christmas, and Christmas is a great time for families and everything else. The World Cup is a summer event, and we look forward to the end of every 4 years. I mean, it's a wonder that the powers to be hasn't made a World Cup every year.
yeah. They're trying.
They're trying, yeah,
Mm,
because money has ruined the game, and money has definitely ruined this World Cup. And even though my son's involved in it, I can't get excited about November World Cup. No, not at all. And I think if Guy Fawkes was alive, he'd probably try and blow it up.
What a way to finish. Cheers, Al. Thanks, pal.
Let's go on that. Cheers, Paul.
Speak soon. Cheers, Al. Thank you, mate.
Bye, mate.
Ta-ra, mate. Ta-ra.
Bye.